I'm Chuck McDonald with Informed Entrepreneur. I'm here with Peter Martino of Capital T's, and that the company is now on the Inc. 5000 list, which makes it one of the fastest growing companies in America. So, good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Chuck. How are you?
Great. I was very interested to look at your background in the military, working with submarines, your law degree, and work with other companies, helping to grow them. How has that positioned you for your current work with Capital T's?
I've done a lot of things in my life, and I think that I've tried to take each one of them as an experience that can help me going forward in the future. I think first and foremost, I'm proud to be a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Graduated there in 1985, and I've learned a lot of leadership lessons my time there, and subsequently as a submarine officer. And I think I've tried to employ those in everything that I've done since then. I'm fond of saying some of the things I also learned in the submarine force, and one of them is a piece of advice I would give to any business owner. That is, don't expect what you don't inspect. And I think I lead my life with that sort of mantra. It's very important to be knowledgeable in terms of what your company is doing at each stage. And the stages of a company's growth change what you do on a day-to-day basis, but I still follow that mantra of always inspecting what I expect and making sure that the plans that I've set in motion are being carried forward. It's been great at Capital T's to be able to take a company from a very small stage, in fact one person, to where we have 200 people today. We have 23 stores, soon to be closer to 30 stores, and it's been great. But I, again, apply a lot of those lessons to my time in the Navy, and then my subsequent experience as an entrepreneur at multiple companies and as a lawyer.
Excellent. We'll get into that in just a minute. Describe for me, though, the growth you mentioned just from a single person. Was there just a steady growth with Capital T's, or was there one kind of tipping point where it all of a sudden jumped to another level?
I'd say there were two tipping points. So the first was that when I started Capital T's, it was an experiment. I had never been involved in retail. I had been involved in high tech and other industries. So not knowing much about retail and never having been previously involved in consumer products, I started one store in Annapolis, and we ran it as a very small single shop for 3 years, from 2007 to 2010, to prove the model, to see how it went, and to learn the business. In 2007 to 2010, I also practiced law at a major law firm called Quinn Emanuel.
Okay.
And I funded the company in large part, by not taking any sort of compensation out and making my money by being a lawyer. In 2010, in September of 2010, I decided to quit being a lawyer to concentrate full-time on Capital T's. And that year we built stores 2 and 3. And from then on, we've grown. In 2013, we crossed through store number 6, and I funded those first 6 stores. We were then very fortunate to run upon a private equity firm that helped us with our growth, and by March of 2014 we had our first $5 million investment.
Excellent.
And that's really helped us grow rapidly since then.
Excellent. So, as we said, Inc. 5000, that means you're a very fast-growing company. So, is there some, you talk about growth, meaning profitability or number of stores? Where are you at, and what do you have as some of your goals?
So the Inc. 5000 is based on revenue growth, and we had a 3-year revenue growth that ended in 2015 of 240%, which put us, I think, position in 1686 of the Inc. 5000. We should go higher this year after the results are done, because we accelerated our growth last year. I think one of the things I learned is in my first company, which was a software company, I set a 5-year plan with a target of 40% per year growth. And we achieved that. And we then subsequently sold the company to a public company and did very well. But I looked back after doing so and said, what if I had set the growth target at 50%? Would we be that much, 25%, better off? So at Capital T's, we've made a really simple round number of saying, let's have 100% per year growth. And let's aim to do that. And we've been able to achieve that the past few years. And we just are finishing a fiscal year now where we, knock on, it's not wood, but knock on wood, but we've come real close to 100% growth over the last fiscal year too.
Excellent, excellent. With these different ventures you've had, I mean, it's obvious that you've learned a lot about leadership. So how about, could you tell me just a couple of lessons maybe that you learned about leadership and you plan to go forward with the capital T's?
Sure. I think one of the most important things in leading a team is communications. So you need to set an expectation and communicate it, and then communicate it again, and then communicate it again. So I think there's reinforcement of the message. And you can say the same when you're building a brand. So externally and internally, I think the reinforcement of a communicated message is imperative to success. Everyone at Capital T's knows our mission statement. Everyone can recite it. It's on every business card. And it's important that they hear it again and again and again. It's on every tin, it's on every brochure. So we try to reinforce that internal message, and we lead through that message. And we also have a vision statement around that message. And then this year, for the first time, I set a list of New Year's resolutions for the company. But rather than making them empty resolutions, we then took them at our management meeting, took them apart, and assigned them so that people have specific tasks assigned to meet the New Year's resolutions. And then we use them as goals, and we follow up. And again, communication and follow up. I think if you do that in any company, in any industry, that's a harbinger of success.
I see. So what have you learned from difficulties or maybe setbacks? How has that shaped your view of leadership?
So I have found that you need to be a survivor. I never quit. There are difficult times. Every business goes through difficult times. There are times when, if you're an entrepreneur, if you haven't faced, not knowing whether you're going to make the next payroll, then you probably haven't been a hard-tested entrepreneur yet. It's tough when you go through things, and it doesn't matter whether you're small or big. We had times when we were small, and we had times as as recently as last fall, where it was a really tough payroll, and it wasn't sure, a few days beforehand how close it would be. But that's just the way it is. I mean, we put the company in a position of high growth, which means we have high expense, but that's where I want to be. So we have to sometimes stretch to get there. And I think it's really important as an entrepreneur, if you want to be successful, to stretch, even in the absence of knowing the future. As an example, I may open a store, and we did, in a faraway place. Well, for here, far away is Denver. We opened one in December this year, and it was late. And it was late due to construction delays. But my costs weren't late. Only my revenue was late. So you have to go through those sorts of hurdles and challenges and figure out ways to overcome them. And when there's a will, there's a way.
So Peter, you mentioned being an entrepreneur. How did you become one? I mean, not everyone wants to run their own business. A lot of people say, I want to work for someone else. How did that happen in your life?
I guess I was fortunate that when I was a naval officer back in the late 1980s, at the end of I initially thought I would stay in the Navy a long time. When the Cold War ended in 1989, the career path opportunities for nuclear submarine officers became somewhat less than they were previously when we were fighting the big bad Soviet Union. It was a pretty stable environment of career growth in the Navy. So I looked at my opportunities at that point, and my father had started a small software company. And my father's always been a bit of an inventor, big inventor. He's invented a lot of different things. And I think he's a better inventor than he is necessarily at the operations of a business. So I joined him in that business, and he was doing okay, but he didn't have any sales and marketing aspect to it. So very quickly I realized that he needed help in the sales and marketing side. I jumped in and started in that side. Within a couple of years, I was essentially running the company. Formally became president, I guess, in 1993, and from 93 to 98, drove the company forward and took it from what was a company doing around $500,000 a year with under 10 people to a company doing $10 million a year with 100 people.
Outstanding. Wow.
And, so I kind of learned on the job, but I really enjoyed what I did. I found that one of the most important and compelling things to do was to sell. And that you had to get out there and you had to sell what you were doing, but you had to have a good product to sell too. So we
Sure.
perfected the product and we sold, and sometimes in the software industry, we did them both at the same time.
Right.
So we could sell while we were still working.
Right.
Can't do that in tea. You know, one of the tough things about tea and retail, and you learn time after time, if you don't have it, you can't sell it. So we have a lot of challenges with logistics and inventory management, and just supply chain issues that I never had in the software business.
Mhm.
So this has been a great new experience for me over the last 9-10 years of Capital Teas too.
Okay. So back on the topic about leadership, do you have someone that you like to look to for a leader, or perhaps someone that you had as a leader in your time in the Naval Academy or other businesses that you look to and kind of remember those leadership guidelines or ideas that they had?
I think it's an amalgamation of various leaders and not one in particular, and I love to study biographies and I learn a lot from biographies. So it doesn't mean that that person has to be alive today. I've always liked Benjamin Franklin. I think the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin is one of the most phenomenal sales primers, and would highly encourage it for everybody. I've liked reading about Steve Jobs, and the Walter Isaacson book on him was pretty phenomenal and inspiring. So, you know, fast forwarding to current day. But I read a number of books of, very serious entrepreneurs. Elon Musk was one I just finished. And I read about Jeff Bezos. It's very interesting to see what the really successful people do. They're a small part of our overall, worldwide population, but they have some common traits and characteristics that I try to emulate as best I can.
I see. So, Peter, tell me, how does Capital Teas give back to the community?
Well, I think the principal way we give back to everyone is through education and inspiration, so that, yes, we sell a product, but more than selling a product, we try to educate and inspire with a product that we know is good for people. So our whole mission statement has been on education and inspiration, and we know that tea, as we would say, infuses wellness. So that's, that might sound like a sales pitch, but we really believe it. The tea is an amazing beverage. The studies are phenomenal in terms of what tea can do for people, and tea helps people, tea inspires people, and we educate them. Beyond that, we also give a lot to various nonprofits, so that we started from day one in Annapolis. This is our home community. I always believe charity begins at home, and that means you support your community. So from day one, every nonprofit that's asked us for something, whether it's tea at a function, a gift card for a silent auction, something, those in our community we have said yes to. I've been on many. In the beginning, it was me with a Fetco full of tea and or some dispenser full of tea, serving tea, because we didn't give much money away then. Now we give a lot of gift cards. We still do services where we'll go to the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra or Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts and do a tea bar at an opening function and have a staff there. But I think that it's really important to be part of the community. One of the challenges for us is as we branch out to many communities, and as we become a national company, we can't do that everywhere. So we're learning as we go. I mean, we don't have the same sort of community outreach in every location now as we expand across the country. And so we're trying other ways to educate and inspire further as another way of community outreach. And we're working on a lot of content and blogging and social media presence, and social media becomes that conversation with people that are out there. We can't really touch them as easily as we can those here at home.
Excellent. Well, Peter, is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to comment on about your company, its growth, and what you've learned in the process?
Sure. I think that the other thing that's really important in any organization, I don't care if it's a tea company, a software company, or whatever, it's the team you put together. I'm not doing this by myself. I'm doing it with a big team. As I mentioned, all these stores, they all have a store manager. We have district managers. So it's very, very important if you're going to run a successful company to have a team that's actually doing the work day to day, and you're guiding them. I really got that in my first company, and I realized for the first time when I took a vacation, which was few and far between, but when I was lying on a beach somewhere and realizing that there were about 7 different presentations on my first company happening at that moment, I said, well, isn't this cool to be lying on a beach while the company's moving forward? Now I can say, isn't it cool that, 364 days of the year, because we're closed on Christmas. All these stores are that I seeded in terms of starting Capital T's are now functioning and working and bringing money in and educating people, inspiring people, and providing a product they love. So it's great, but it's all about the team. So if you're going to focus on another area besides finance and business operations, I would say team building is number one.
Excellent. Peter, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care.